Welcome to the TWU Local 591 podcast. My name is Gary Scheibel, your local president. We are in our new building, new podcast room, new studio here. If you're ever in the Grapevine, Texas area, please come by and see us. This is a much better setup. Now we have video capabilities along with the audio for podcasts. So we're going to start with a very special podcast today. For our first one, and that is with our recently retired MLS Executive Board member, Mike Bush, who helped a lot with getting this building ready for what we can do with it today. So welcome, Mike.
Hey, thanks for having me back. Good seeing you guys.
And we also have your Vice President, Pete Caruso, is here to help with this podcast.
Happy to be here.
So Mike would be an understatement to say that he was a champion. I mean, he was much more than a champion for the MLS work group, the MLS members for over 2 decades. And he still, to this day, continues to help us out, help Mike Jezierski out as he transitions into the role. And we definitely thank him for that. And I know Mike Jezierski thanks him, but I want to start with one thing here, the term MLS and how that came about.
That came about in the bankruptcy negotiations, material logistics specialist. And that was back at the time when logistics was the key word that was popping. And I, in my mind, I went back to my very first job when I was 14 years old in Youngstown, Ohio. I was a stock clerk for a little bitty grocery store. And then at 15, went to a bigger grocery store and was a stock clerk and stock shelves and all that. So coming to America, the term stock clerk, every time I heard it, I would always think back as a grocery store stock clerk. So when I had an opportunity to change it in the bankruptcy agreement and get some money for it, we wanted to key in on the buzzword logistics. So that's where we came up with material logistics specialist.
Well, there's definitely a much more professional sounding name that goes along with the professionalism of that work group.
Hey, Mike, it's nice to see you again. So just a little history. I came into the 591 board in 2016, Title I board, and Mike's counterpart. We worked together back then when I first met Mike coming in, and then 2 terms as the VP. Worked together with Mike on the grievances, grievance handling, and so forth. So worked together with Mike for quite some time. Also, when this contract came in, process GRB, worked together to get where we are now. Our Monday calls, new grievance handling procedures for our local. Mike was very instrumental in helping me get all the grievances in our local files. So quite a number of grievances. So Mike has taught me a lot throughout the years, experience wise. So a lot of experience. So I'm gonna question this Mike, and especially when it comes to grievances, but a lot of the experience that he's left behind and just the process that we have going good now. We've done many GRBs together, successful GRBs together, and interesting enough, for another long time MLS chairman and former board member, Steve Kuckelberger, the JFK, also retired, right? So that's 75 years of experience.
Yeah, that's about right.
Right. So what do you, any of the reps that are coming up now and all, grievance handling and such?
Well, first thing is get as much training as possible. We take whatever's available. I mean, back in the day, we didn't have this type of training, and Pete's been instrumental in developing these. We're flying guys in from all over the U.S. to take advantage of this training. So first and foremost, take advantage of as much training as you could get. Secondly is patience. I mean, you got to have patience. I've seen over the years, I've seen both sides of the spectrum where you got guys who are just screaming and yelling and burn it down, and you got guys that are, not very vocal at all. You have to be patient. You have to listen to what the member says. You have to go investigate. You have to talk to management. You have to get the whole story before you move forward, because usually, it's somewhere in the middle. So my advice is be patient, gather up all your information and documentation with this new grief track system. Not new now, but new from the old days. It's a fantastic system to put all these notes in. So I would encourage patience, uploading as many documents as you can, because when it gets to Pete's level, he's going to pull open grief track and research a grievance. He's not going to call a steward and say, okay, tell me this. So put as much information as you can into the grief track system. It does help a lot.
Interesting you mentioned training. So go back to the first time we started working together was back in 2008. Actually, Mike was really the first one that's actually wanted to break the ice with the new crowd compared to the old crowd. And we got into a conversation about training because I was looking to get training on arbitration and on the pick Mike's brain on, how was it? And then I find out Mike wasn't trained arbitration, and that kind of changed my mindset, position going forward. That you know, how can you expect people to do the job if they're not trained? Even if you're not putting it on an arbitration, knowing how an arbitration would work, knowing how important it might be to get it settled at a lower step, because you've experienced what it's like to put on a case. So maybe touch on that a little bit, like those old days.
Well, yeah. Before you came along, Gary, as the vice president, I felt the only training I really had back in 565 as an executive board member was I went to the Tulsa Technology Center to learn continuous improvement, the 5S's. Because back then the B check, if you remember, was coming to DFW on midnights, and they wanted to do free stock, and so we had to learn about the incoming B check and how to best support it. But that was about the only training I got was the Tulsa Technology Center. And then when you came on board and we started talking, and you asked me those questions, everything changed. You said, "No, that's not going to work. Let's get the education." So once that door was open, then I tried to take advantage of it. Arbitration 1, Arbitration 2, which we attended together, and I learned a lot from that ARB 2, just watching you make a kid run out of the room crying one day with your case. But from then on, I started taking advantage of any type of training that they would allow me to go to, because I wasn't used to that over the years. Went to the number 1 OSHA rated school in the United States at UTA in Arlington. Got my SSH and my CSHO certifications from OSHA, which helped the members quite a bit. I remember the bird droppings in the hangars, and the big fight we had with that. They didn't think it was no big deal, and anyways, we got a lot of that cleaned up back in the day, because the histospasmosis, I believe, was the term that came from the bird droppings that could get into your lungs. Anyways, so I learned a lot from there, and then went on to negotiations prep. I went to Harvard, which to this day is hard for me to believe, a guy from a little steel mill town going to Harvard, but these guys pushed and urged me to attend Harvard with them, which I thought was something else. That was just fantastic to have that type of training in negotiations prep, the art of saying no, which really is was very good training that we were able to use, and you guys still do to this day, I assume. But so once you open the door for training, I took advantage of that as much as I could, and to this day I appreciate you opening that door back way back then.
I mean, one thing I believe in, and I know this executive board believes in, is making sure everybody's trained. The most best training that we could possibly get. And to the Harvard training, many of us have been through training there and negotiations techniques. Because if you're going to go against a multi-billion-dollar company like American Airlines, they hire folks, or they hire outsiders that are well-versed in negotiation techniques, and you better be matching training with them if you're going to be sitting at a table with them. And that's something that we strongly believe in. And I know Pete's been overseeing training as a VP, and
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I can tell you, it's very challenging to train union reps because there's so many different things that can happen out there. And the only way that our training here is successful is we have the senior reps, Mike, myself, and some of the other guys that can share their knowledge, right? And that's the best way to train younger reps that come in or that are coming in is to share your experiences and share how you do things and how things have worked for you. And that's something I'm gonna miss from Mike because Mike it helped me do the train our reps. In terms of grievance handling, he had a well put together module on how to get evidence for a grievance, like how to win a grievance, how to argue the grievance, what work do you need, because evidence is everything. But Mike had a really good way of sharing his knowledge, and that's something that that I'm gonna miss. And Mike, if you can share experiences and what you learned from training our younger reps.
Oh, again, I'll go. It's night and day from the old days, and when you came in and developed the training system, which was something that we didn't see before. Flying guys in from all over the U.S. Every steward that wanted training, we bring them in to train them, and you tasking each executive board. This is your field. What do you want to focus on? That's just instrumental going forward and getting these guys the tools that they need to do the job to better represent our members. So I thank you for coming on board and initiating that, because it's to this day, I keep watching it. You keep tweaking it and keep tweaking it. And anybody who wants trained gets trained. And it's something that, you have to do to be successful.
Appreciate that. And you know what? It's real easy when you have an executive board that is all in tune with training and sharing that information. We have each board member has their expertise. We Gary come in and do some leadership training and some behavioral training. We had Mike did the grievance handling. We had Russ do the work rate training, and Mark Erlo with the notes. So we have a good board here that's willing to train the younger reps, whereas some other boards not so much. So and I appreciate all your hard work.
And a lot of hard work it's been, because I mean, I'm thinking back to some of your accomplishments. Obviously, some folks might not think the name change was big, but it's gonna continually lead to uh, pushing that premium, pushing that separation from other work groups, and pushing a professional or a professional work group, which is what we want for our MLS folks. But pushing the profession, that's something that you've been doing for as long as I've known you. You know that craft of class date at the NMB by heart. Um, I've seen you get into it with quite a few people, whether it's TWU or with the IAM, with the association on that craft of class. And how about you speak a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, you're right. I've been in some discussions, some heated, some not, but I've always felt over the years that stores was kind of overlooked, or didn't get the respect that it deserved. And when you look back from the research I did, this little bitty group in New York decided they wanted to be unionized and have representation, and were putting their jobs on the line doing it at that time. And they sought out representation, and TWU came in and they got organized. And then the following year we were followed by mechanics and fleet service, so which made everybody even stronger. But they weren't afraid to get organized back then. So I've kind of felt that it was always a little disrespectful there, for stores over the years. And when we joined with the IAM, there was comments about stores going into M&R just like they are over in the IAM. And, that obviously rubbed me the wrong way, because we were never in M&R. Not that there was anything wrong. That wasn't our structure. So at the time I said, no, as long as I'm involved with this, we will not be in M&R like the IAM was previously. So when the NMB came out and they did clearly define that we are a separate class and craft, so in my opinion, that further strengthened the argument that, we are our own class and craft, and we need to negotiate and uh, put a premium on what we do. We have a lot of specialty jobs that we do. We put licenses. You can be fined, you can be jailed for things we do in stores. So, yeah, I thought there was a lot of importance to focus on our class and craft over the years, and we'll always argue for it, and we'll still to this day.
There certainly is, and it's at the NMB level. There's not a lot of singular work group crafter class like pilots, flight attendants, stores. You got dispatch to it. I mean, there's not a lot. When getting to mechanic is mechanic related, it gets much bigger. So I know something you've always been proud of maintaining your singular crafter class. Something that's always impressed me when you look, and especially now looking back at the seniority list, it's a really good indication of work done to push your profession, push the number of people working there. Especially looking at the line stations, and then as we got into 591, and even going through a bankruptcy and continually pushing. Maybe you want to speak to some of that.
Yeah, as far as the seniority list, I remember when I was a steward, and then I was a section chairman before I became the executive board for Local 565. I actually started at 513, but 565 in Dallas. And that was, my sole focus, becoming e-board for this area, was to build it and strengthen it and take on as much work as we could, because I felt we had the expertise to do it. And I don't know how many VPs and managing directors and everything I had to, continually just have those discussions with, because we were the biggest airport. We had the most flights out of here. So I just couldn't understand, and brought up as many times as I could, as why we don't have the bulk of the parts here to get them on a plane the fastest, to get them somewhere, to get the planes fixed and up in the air wherever they are. So finally, after I don't know how many VPs and MDs, we finally had people that thought, not a bad idea. Not that it was my idea, but at least we had people that were willing to listen and ask questions on how to best handle it. We had a lot of meetings, and we started growing and growing and taking more work on in DFW. Now, as you see, the new building over there that is a great facility, really great facility, state of the art. We've grown even bigger. Then you fast forward to the 591 days when we had to charter Local 591, which in the bankruptcy negotiations, when I was with 565, that ball got dropped on us at the end there, that, oh, by the way, all your locals are gone, and there's going to be one base and one line going forward, which, was a lot to stomach, but okay, it is what it is. And it did turn out that way, as one base, one local, but that's a whole different story.
Oh, that's a story for another day.
So then you had to adjust, and we had to charter a new local, and it was very pressing times. It was a lot of work.
I still remember at 11:59 a.m. We were still in 565, 12 noon, you're in 591, and they tore up the books and everything else.
Everything. So you had to start scratch with everything. And I was proud of being on that board to charter that, along with George Rojas, is still serving the members proudly, doing a great job along with Gary, and I was on that original board to charter that. So then you go into 591, and you're looking at work and headcount, and now we look at, I'm not just over DFW, I'm over all these line stations. Okay, so you got to start talking to management around the system and saying, how come we're not doing this better? How, we can do this more efficiently? How come there's not more work here? And there were some stations, we called them class twos back then. They call them small stations now, but there was only one MLS, maybe two. If we were really lucky, there'd be a bigger class two that had three. Now there's minimum of 6 for the 24/7 coverage that we're supposed to have, that was negotiated in the previous contract. And you look at Austin, and that's, even larger than that. So we've built up the ranks and taken on more work and grew the headcount. And by the way, in the bankruptcy negotiations going in, there was rumors that they were going to try to outsource stores. So from where we were heading to where we are now is a vast improvement. And I'm going to touch on one other thing. I was here many, many years ago when I saw management walk going through our warehouses in front of us while we were working, looking at all the aisles, the parts, the automation. And we come to find out they were bringing them through there to see if they could give a bid on outsourcing us to do the work, which was very insulting. And, obviously they didn't go with Boeing because we obviously did the work cheaper, so they kept us. So I always felt that we had to, keep doing the work, do it properly, get the people in there to do it. And luckily over the years, we had management that was listening. So I'm proud of what the seniority list looks like now. We can always be better, but it's grown quite a bit.
Yeah, it has.
So Mike, and throughout the years, we've always had we've always had the pleasure of working together to try to get people back to work, and we've had success. Um, but I would say that we had brought a lot of people back to work. And what advice could you give stewards or somebody who's interested in being a future ref on relations with buying?
Well, that's a good question because I've heard it all. I've got into heated arguments with members that say you should be in there jumping on the desk, threatening to burn the place down. You should be, screaming at them, and you can't do business that way. You have to treat people as you want to be treated. That's just my opinion. Go in and you start screaming at somebody. What's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to shut down. You're done. Yeah, that's what I've noticed over the years. So if there's an issue, you go in, you want to say, hey, you got a minute, we have an issue. They may come to you and say, hey, we got an issue. Let's see what we got. And both sit down and get the whole story. Like I said earlier, get the whole story because you're going to get one part over here. You're going to get one part over here. Got to do all the fact checking, make sure before you start proceeding down the path of getting a grievance going. And like you said, we've brought a lot of people back. We saved a lot of people from going out by intervening. So not just bringing them back, we've kept a lot of people from having to hit the street, which I'm proud of. So, but patience, man. These new stewards, you got to have patience. You got to do all the research before you act. Don't just jump in and don't go in screaming at somebody. Now, don't get me wrong. If somebody's screaming at me, well, that's what they're going to get back. But it's patience and do your research.
So we've had some good success throughout the years. We have members either get terminated or going to be terminated, and Mike will call me up and say, "Hey, it's taken care of." So, I really, really appreciate our work on that.
So, any advice for Mike Jezierski, who's taken over? I mean, I've seen him so far in negotiation prep, and he's kind of a pit bull, and head down, he's going at it. Any advice from?
Yeah, I've known Mike for many years. Mike's been involved for many years. Being in 591 and obviously going to Chicago all the time, I had a lot of opportunities to sit with Mike. Mike would invite me out to the hangar. We'd go talk to the guys and girls, and see the new parts, the new warehouse, and all that. So we've always worked very well together. I liked his style. He actually reminded me of a younger me. He's not afraid to take anything on. He doesn't jump. He, like I just said a minute ago, he likes to get the facts first. And again, I've seen him in action. He will fight to represent this membership. So I felt very confident, when the board discussed it and decided to bring Mike on. And I have offered any help I could. Mike, we talk quite a bit to this day. We still talk a lot. I'm in negotiations, and as long as these guys want me to continue helping them out with negotiations, I'm here to help. So I'm confident that Mike do a good job. Just based off of what I've seen over the years. So again, I'm here to help him in any way I can.
No, and he has done a real good job so far in the first couple months, and I would expect that to continue. Just knowing the man, but he does have some big shoes to fill. And are there anything that you wish you could have got done that we're going to turn over to Mike to get done? Not to put any pressure on him.
Well, yeah, don't screw it up.
Yeah, so I'll let you know. Roll count on you.
Yeah. Yes. I always strive to be the biggest, be the best. I've watched our classification kind of get watered down, and as I said, over the last 5 years, dumbed down. We have a lot of specialty jobs that we no longer have. It seems since the merger, management has pushed our classification into more of a receive, put away, pick, ship. And our guys are on the line for, fines, jail time with the hazardous stuff. So, I hope that the new people to stores really appreciate the job and take it seriously. As this company's vicious, and if they find a way to contract you out, they'll take advantage of it. So don't give them that reason to come in and do the job. I'm sure Mike will keep a good eye on every station. That's the big key, coming from having to take care of one station to now you have close to 30 stations that you have to keep an eye on. So I'm sure Mike will do a good job of that.
And I see it all the time. He's much like you, pushing the skill sets, pushing the professionalism. So he's definitely got that same mindset. Retirement life. That was plans.
Well, I'm still waiting for it to kick in.
Anything?
No,
People from the airline?
well, I'm not going to do the Cousin Eddie thing. I'm still waiting for it to kick in. I seem to be busier now, but it's for more, personal and home reasons, which I had to focus my attention on. So that's occupying a lot of my time. But yeah, at some time, at some point, I think calm down a little bit. But I got to say before you sign off that I always enjoyed what I did, and the support of this board and how hard they work. It's a thankless job. None of us did it for the money or do it for the money, because we could be on the floor making a lot of money. That I'll know. So it's not about the money. It's about representing the membership and keeping the company from taking advantage of them. So it's a thankless job, but I'm glad we have people involved that are still doing it to this day. And I thank you guys for the support that you've given me, allowing me to do what I did to represent my membership. That meant a lot to me over the years.
Mike, I appreciate all your hard work that you've done throughout the years, and the fact that you're still willing to help and willing to stay on and help Mike Zerski. We've done already 2 GRBs with Mike, and he's so really fitting in, and I appreciate the turnover you're giving him. It doesn't happen very often with the union reps that are leaving, and I normally don't get much in turnover, and I appreciate you helping him out and really helping out the local for all the work you've done. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's been an absolute pleasure. I can't believe it's actually been 16 years. But been the constant professional, constantly pushing this profession. When you think back, and I just laugh about it. Prior contracts, when before we got to this JCBA, we used to always have a thing called the title groups, and Mike's group was unfortunately always named Title Who. And he's definitely elevated it to where it's no longer called Title Who anymore.
Change that.
So that was a big one. So yeah, we definitely appreciate everything you've done for this local, your friendship, still sticking around, helping us out where we need. So it's been a really good ride, and got a well-deserved retirement.
Always be there for you guys, whatever you need.
All right, well, that's our podcast for today. Appreciate you watching this special podcast. And if you have any ideas on subjects you want us to cover, please let us know at info@local591.com, and we will get on it and make a podcast on that subject. So appreciate everybody getting on and watching, and we will see you next time. Thanks.